Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
Welcome. And I'm Chet. Today we have legendary journalist in the green room with us, Mike Watkiss. Welcome.
Welcome,
So
Mike
much
Watkiss.
fun.
What a pleasure to be here.
This is going to be an exciting show. There's so
I
much.
think so.
He brought his amazing daughter, Dylan. Welcome in the green room.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
She brought me. truth be told. She's sort of the executive producer
All right.
of this act.
That's smart.
Just want to get that on the record.
So yeah, we want to plug your book, Story Hustler, and that is also the title of your podcast you guys just started, correct?
Our YouTube channel. It was going to be a podcast, and then we were like, I think we'd be better filming this.
We're in the TV business, and we're better showing pictures and telling stories with pictures, but yeah.
But yes, the YouTube channel, Story Hustler.
That's
awesome.
exciting.
That's very exciting.
Sweet, that's awesome. So what kind of topics do you guys cover?
We cover everything. We like to call it the truest of true crimes, and it's kind of an in-depth look at the book, but it's all the stories that he's covered. So anything from Tanya Harding to O.J. Simpson to Richard Ramirez, anything you want to fix for, we got it.
A bunch of light, happy stories.
That's
right.
we focus on happy stories.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think you're a hero because you've helped investigate these criminals, and that's a big deal. And they're behind bars now, so you're a hero.
I guess,
You're a hero. So you're here saving the planet.
One
show at a time.
Well, yeah, and uncovering truths is an important
That was
part.
very nice.
That was
Very nice.
We've rehearsed
little
I think
catchphrase.
they've worked on that before.
so too.
Yeah, maybe twice.
So that's our logo. And so for everyone that's listening, we are on Facebook, in the greenroom.green. Please like us and follow YouTube, in the greenroom.green, Instagram. And now we're on like 15 podcast channels, incling Apple Podcasts. I don't know what all the
Exciting.
names are.
They
So
got
that's
it
exciting.
going.
Yay.
You guys are.
We could
wow.
take some notes.
We
from
need
these
we
guys.
need some advice.
There we
Well,
go.
our
And
real focal point is that we get to interview such interesting people like you guys.
it's so exciting. I mean, this is just so exciting. And I really want to plug Martin. His website is Yes Is More Fun.
That's right. Yesismorefun.com.
My life coach, love coach that keeps me in check.
That's right. Somebody's got to do it.
So let's see. So what is your
And
favorite?
just on that note, but in improv, it's always yes.
Always yes.
And
Yes,
as
yes.
an actor, it's like when a guy, somebody yes, it's always yes. Never
Yes.
no on stage.
Right?
So there you go.
100%.
Pardon me, yes,
Oh, you're
sir.
good. I was just gonna ask. So far, in the episodes you have done, what is your favorite one you guys have done
Oh,
so
that's
far?
what I
What
was
was the
gonna
most
That's a great
fun?
question.
I beat you there. So.
That's a good question.
Well, we did last night. We wrapped up with a really noted journalist named Paul Rubin going in depth on the case of Mark Godot. Valley residents will remember Mr. Godot as the baseline rapist and killer. And we talk about a period of time that was one of the freakiest in my career. I've covered lots of serial killers. We've been talking about some of this stuff. There was a period of time, basically in the Phoenix metro area, where you had two active serial killers, very active, preying on people, different demographics, but basically geographically right on top of each other. You had Mark Godot, the rapist murderer, and you had sort of the Beavis and Butthead of serial killers, Del Hausner and Sam Dietman, these two methed up morons who like to drive around in their car and shoot at people,
Yep.
horses, and animals. And they racked up
Cowards.
racked up 8 murders for the shooters. Mark Godot ended up getting 9 murders. So you had these two active serial killers simultaneously killing people in the same area. And Arizona the Valley was
I remember that.
freaked
That was like
What year was
I think it's
this?
2005 and 2006.
Yeah, it basically started this. The bookends are the spring of 2005, and it was sort of over by the late summer of 2006. And it was the summer. It was the year of fear, as we sort of have.
I remember a lot of people weren't going out, and
Yeah.
they were scared to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little bit
So and
funny that way. I wasn't worried.
We did that. We did an episode on that just last night that we have yet to post, but we focused on.
I think my favorite's honestly the Jodi Arias because, I mean, I remember that one fully. You know, I was young for a lot of these other crimes that you covered.
Wait, remind me about that story. I don't
The
remember.
Jodi Arias trial, she gruesomely murdered her boyfriend, Travis Alexander, and they were trying to get the death penalty, and just, it was kind of
It was the biggest story
Yeah.
for some inexplicable reasons, but it became the biggest trial. people like Nancy Grace were feasting on this for
Everyone
every
had an
night.
opinion.
And anyhow, so we got another noted old journalist friend of mine who sat through that trial every day like I did, our friend Michael Kiefer. And we talk about the Jodi Arias case. So again, light fare. Something
stuff.
that, happy stuff when you
Family
want to
friendly,
lighten
you know.
the mood. These are the kinds of stories. But some of them are, and some of them have been really heartfelt. We have done a couple of tributes to friends of ours that we have lost.
Dave, yeah, and Jim Cox.
Jim Cox, the
photojournalist.
Okay, you have to remind us when you say somebody, because some people
and people
won't
will
know.
remember this.
Dave was a kid. His father burned him, and 90% of his body was just horribly burned. And he had an incredible life. He was an artist and a producer, and you met him at a current affair.
Working at a current affair. He hobnobbed. He counted Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan
as friends.
And David Robinson as his personal friends. He had all kinds of interesting people, but he very famous young man, and his case has been chronicled ever since his father committed this brutal act on him many years ago, and he was a dear personal friend of our families. And we talk about Dave in one episode just because
tribute to him. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, we just both get a little. I think we both love him a lot. And then one of the guys who they lost in the chopper crash when the two helicopters crashed, Channel 15s, and we knew all all those guys.
Yeah.
But one of them was really one of my longtime friends, and we did a little tribute to Jimmy. So it's a mixed bag on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like working for Current Affair, and how many years were you at Current Affair?
About 8 years, ended up being the West Coast. She just got hired on to go work with Maury Povich and the gang back in New York when the show was young.
Do you remember Maury Povich show?
Yeah, of course.
The Maury Povich show now when he does the paternity thing.
Oh yeah, that's different.
I worked
That's
with a different Maury at a different junction.
You are
in
not
his
the
life.
father. Yeah. No,
Yeah. God bless Maury. What he's making a buck, I guess. But back at Maury was like a superstar, married to Connie Chung. This is ancient history for most people. But long before my beautiful daughter was born, I got that wild gig to go work at this upstart tabloid show that really changed the face of American journalism, called A Current Affair. And I left Mom.
We loved that show. I just remember bringing the kids home. Yes, bringing the kids home from school, and I'd be like, "What's on Current Affair?"
I was probably on A Current Affair.
Definitely.
And I remember that one of the biggest stories was the O.J. Simpson.
Well, I was
murder.
there the day they found
Nicole
the
Simpson murder.
It just so happens that the crew and I was working with that day were one of the first crews on the scene. The morning they found
What was that like?
bodies. What was it like? It was like
Intense.
that moment is like a crazy crime scene in L.A. that had a celebrity link, and I'd been at other ones that were weird. So it was like you knew that the morning of the kill, they're killed late at night. Wherever O.J. is, he gets on an airplane and goes to Chicago. If you remember. I'm early that morning. We're driving down the Santa Monica Freeway to some story that I can't even remember anymore. And I get a frantic phone call on a giant cell phone of the day. Rick think guy is screaming from our New York office. Where are you? Get off the freeway. Go to Bundy. O.J. something, his girlfriend, wife. I mean, this is the earliest tipster, and he wasn't clear exactly, but he knew there was a woman and a guy, and they were both all linked to O.J., and I needed to get off whatever I was doing and get my ass to Bundy. And that's what we did, and so we ended up being one of the first crews to show up. Crime tape was up. Cops were there. The bodies of Ron and Nicole were behind.
Did you actually see the bodies?
No, they were behind there. They were back inside. I saw that sort of river of blood that you have seen.
Oh my gosh.
Coming down, and that was visible for some time where we, and you knew that this was a bad. So you get some sort of instinct. You can tell that there is just bad mojo at a scene, and that had that plenty. Saw Marcia Clark arrive at the scene before anybody knew who Marcia Clark was, but.
And Robert Kardashian.
So
Take a
Bobby
briefcase,
Kardashian
but
and Leger did.
we don't need to get into that
Interesting.
speculation.
So do you think O.J. Do you think he's innocent?
Do I think
no,
O.J.'s
not at all.
Who thinks that? Who
Is that
thinks?
rendering?
That's my opinion.
Well,
I
for
don't.
my show, I don't want to say.
I think only OJ thinks he's innocent.
Did you hear what he said? He's like, I don't want to move back to LA because I might be sitting next to the killer. It's like, dude, every time you look in the mirror, my friend.
Is he trying to be ironic? Like, I don't even get it.
Yeah.
I was celebrating my daughter's birthday on Friday, and she told me that. And I said, "What?" I couldn't believe it. I didn't
Yeah.
actually hear that, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. So do you think? Why was he not? Why is he not behind bars?
Oh, this
a
we
very
th-
good
that
question.
we can well and no and we now
Exactly.
there's
Because you're an expert on this case. So
I say that out loud. I'm sorry.
there's a lot of people.
there's
you
a
know,
song. There's a song.
That is a history lesson of Americana at the moment, and what the factors of race and money and power and celebrity, and all of those were found in this one trial, and it rendered the verdict that it rendered.
Do you think evidence manipulation was part of it, or no?
Those are big fancy terms for basically you got a guy that had enough money to get the best lawyers that money can buy, and you know what? It worked for him. And let me tell you, it's worked for a bunch of other real guilty rich people other than OJ. OJ just had the wherewithal and the celebrity. And, do I think that he committed those crimes? Absolutely. I thought, I sort of sensed, and again, with just having been around a lot of crimes over the years, that from the moment we arrived there, it was like this was a crime of passion. People kill each other all the time. They kill each other violently all the time. But to mess people up the way that killer did those two people, I don't think you just hate people. You got
Wait, what do you mean mess them up the way they were messed up?
Sliced
Like
and
the
di-
mutilation of the
Yes,
bodies
he
and
went
just-
after them, and it was savage killing
was
of
personal.
those two things. And it just sort of and again, this is just my hindsight recollection. People think I'm full of shit, but the bottom line is, I felt like this was, and OJ's story never made any sense, and the glove did fit. He just,
Stretched
jacked
his
hand
hand.
out so damn much that, and Johnny Cochran was a hell of a good lawyer, and some of those other retreads like F. Lee Bailey were occasionally good lawyers, and he had the best lawyers money can buy, and you know what? He got the verdict that money, the best money can get you. And if you're pissed off about that, then be pissed off at the system. Yeah, the reaction and this is profound, and people are still sort of getting, psychoanalyze this, but the reaction of Black America and White America really was sort of a Rorschach test for the country. And I think that that's something that we could all learn from, and take from that what you will. But there's a million reasons. Covered a number of trials. The three big ones are the most significant OJ, the weirdest Warren Jeffs, the polygamous prophet.
tell us about that.
And the worst Jodi Arias. Yes. But those are the three trials I look at. And OJ, it was, we could talk about it forever because it really was a profound trial for a million different reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, I'm going on way too long. Like you do.
We're rambling.
Well, I have
We
a
do on
question.
our show.
I know you did cover for a year, I think, Michael Jackson.
Way more than a year.
And I love his music. And Chet and I and Martin were friends with one of his sons. And so I'm not going to say anything negative about him other than what I just want to hear what you have to say about his story.
Well, Dave, our friend, he never really wanted to say anything bad about Michael, and he was of the impression that, Michael didn't do it, and he didn't do anything to him, and he was of that mindset. And I don't think we're here to say, whether he's guilty or not.
Our friend Dave, the artist that we knew, was the only one person I knew that had a direct personal relationship, and he swore up and down that he didn't believe any of this stuff. And that's the only guy I know personally who I know had entree to Michael Jackson's.
Was it exciting covering that?
But
for the year?
With the allegations, and you've seen some of I think the Netflix, which had sued them, there are clearly issues with the allegations, but there's a lot of smoke over the course of his career, and I covered that when the
Such as what?
Well,
When they first broke, when the allegations first broke and his tour was kind of up in flames because of all these, he got on the plane to Singapore and traveled around chasing
and ambushed actress Elizabeth Taylor on an airplane flying over to Singapore.
Really?
She was going to be with him because they were close friends, and she kind of needed to go comfort him when all these allegations.
Talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show. So it's one of our episodes. But yeah, she jetted out to go be with him during these allegations.
And again,
he hopped on and ambushed her.
We can talk about just
Was
that.
she nice?
She was pissed off.
When the
that they
camera
were there.
was when she knew the camera was on her, she was Elizabeth Taylor,
Right.
the cat on the hot tin roof. She
Before
was the
that.
Academy Award. When she was sort of dealing with us and deciding whether we were going to do an interview, she had this bodyguard that she was traveling with Larry Fortensky, her husband, who was famous at the time.
Was that husband number 6?
Whatever, her husband. He was the husband that she met.
The current one at that moment.
She needs the love life
Please
coach.
take a note.
She needs money.
Larry Fortensky was the one that she had met in rehab and then married. So she's with her husband at the time and one of the scariest bodyguards. And we ended up in the first class cabin of this Singapore Airlines jet, flying off to cover Michael Jackson. We're sitting basically right behind Elizabeth Taylor, and she's pissed off that we're there. And so we end up negotiating with her to do it.
The pilot had to come out and be your mediator.
Let's just say,
I
thank
love
God.
that you're here, Dylan.
Thank
Thank
God.
you so much
Thank
for
God.
adding some of
We
this
gotta add
color
the
content.
details.
This is
Adding the
awesome.
spice.
Thank
Yeah.
God all of this, all I can say is thank God all of this happened pre 9/11. Because
Oh,
the
yes.
security in airports and on airplanes was significantly less weird.
Very lax.
And the camera guy I was working with, his wonderful camera guy that I traveled all over the world with, Alex Fragnado. The Australian ninja, This guy's a great camera guy. But
Would he hide in the bushes to get these people on camera?
you know
He'd
what?
do anything for the shot.
Yeah, that's basically, and some of this stuff, we still have to check on the statutes of limitation, don't we?
I don't know. You need to talk to
Aussies
your
are
lawyer.
crazy. I've hung out with quite a few in my life.
Camera guys, yeah, they're
fun.
the best. They're the best. I think they're the coolest part of TV. But anyway.
Well, you
Make
gotta
you
love
look
Michael
good.
Jackson's music. I mean, he really is the king, and I don't
Right.
think there's any. I mean, his music is like nobody else is like that. I mean, his dancing, his music, his songs, lyrics. He did it all. It's
we
incredible.
went to on that. We ended up on the flight with Elizabeth Taylor. The LA Times had dropped a story that this first young man had. There were first public allegations, very public allegations. LA Times drops the story. Basically, I got a phone call from the same guy in New York, called me about OJ and said, we have reason to believe that Elizabeth... Jackson has these allegations now against him of a young man saying these things that he had acted inappropriately with him. Jackson was on the Dangerous tour. Huge tour, billion-dollar tour. They were in Thailand when the story broke, heading towards Singapore. So we get this, and now the wonder is Michael going to continue on this tour? They booked. They're in the second leg of this thing. It's going to make billions, and it would cost billions if it fell apart. So suddenly there's the economics, and does he come home from Singapore and face charges? He's not going to come back. So I get this phone call from the guy in New York, and he says, we have reason to believe that Elizabeth Taylor is going to be on this airplane this afternoon. Get out there, and if she's on there, you guys get on there. We don't care if you're hanging from the wing. But if she's not there, if she not get on there, don't get on the damn plane because it's
Waste
too
the money.
damn expensive, and we can't afford you being out of pocket for 3 days.
She didn't
to
show
come
up
back.
till last minute. Like they were like, we need you guys to make a decision,
Like I said,
on or off,
we
and then
would
she
have been
pulled up in a limo. And
arrested if it was in
Yeah,
today's
nowadays,
world.
out
We
there.
got gear. Yeah, we pulled a lot
Security.
of bullshit, but we got in the first class cabin, and when Liz had her paparazzi radar, she knew who we were immediately, and she had this former Mossad bodyguard, scary
Oh, those guys are
SLB,
scary.
wanted
and
to
and
throw you off. The
Dude,
plane.
if he could have grabbed me and Alex and opened the door and thrown us over the Pacific, he would have and gotten away with it.
There's moments I feel the same.
I do that to people. But anyhow, so that began what in essence was a next 18-month sojourn following Michael Jackson. When we were in Singapore, we made friends with the concert promoter, so we got backstage and we saw the Dangerous tour twice.
You did? How exciting!
Well, you're a fan. I was always a fan. Michael was basically my age, so we grew up. I grew up knowing Michael Jackson.
I wasn't watching him live.
Well,
Sorry.
I was gonna say
stunning. Watching him there on the screens and we're in a soccer stadium in Singapore that will hold 100,000 people, and there's every bit of those there, and it was epic. And we saw it twice, and then on the third night, these headlines continued while we were watching this and talking to the promoters, and the pressure was on. The third night, he called in sick and damn near had a riot when they told that 100,000. Thank God the Singaporean people are very nice and very civil, and they were pissed, and things started to fall apart. And the next thing, Jackson jets off to Mexico City, where we spent a long period of time. Then he went to London and stayed with Elton John's manager, and then we went to Switzerland, and we were following every step of the way.
It's incredible.
And it was a great, and
you
so
got to go to 2 of the concerts. That's amazing.
Yeah,
what a fun ride.
I got to go, and then
you're there. You're saving. I mean, if it is true, if that was true that he was, doing anything with child abuse, I support, the
victims. But
yes.
what we were trying to say at the beginning, though, is that you can separate someone's artwork and the things that they accomplished from what they did.
I guess, and we find ourselves faced with that
Seems like
dilemma
we have to do that more and
right
more
now
now.
with the Me Too thing. There's a lot of despicable guys. The guy who ran my favorite movie of all time is Chinatown. It was directed by Roman Polanski. We write about Roman Polanski because we
talked about him.
Helter Skelter.
Helter
Skelter, wasn't that book?
No, that's you're thinking of
who is that?
Vincent Bugliosi, who was the prosecutor in the Manson thing. But Roman Polanski was the director, married to Sharon Tate.
Yes,
But he was a creep, right?
Well,
He was
raped
accused of raping a little girl.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
Yeah,
that's
he was
another level.
He was
of it.
exiled to
say
Europe.
people, and we find this. I'll tell you, working in
But wasn't the book Helter Skelter about
the death of Sharon Tate
Yes.
and the Lobiancas,
Yes.
And it was written by Vincent Bugliosi. It's about the Manson.
Because my friend Sean Cooney, actually, who's my boyfriend for like 5 years, his dad was Pep Cooney. We went. He was reading that book Helter Skelter, and we went to California, and he wanted to see this house, and it was creeping me out because we drove up to see the house because he was reading that book.
Was that the Tate? They went to the Tate.
The Sharon Tate house.
we went to
Or
that
the
house.
Lobiancas. They're two different killings. But
You know,
now
Sean,
I don't even. We're so in the weeds now. I don't
we
even.
met because of Sean Cooney. He said, "Oh, you'd be perfect for the show," and that's
I
how we
am.
met. So can we hear a quick song about all this?
All this fun, happy
Yes,
stuff.
yes. Because we're here saving the planet
One show at a time.
And you're doing that because you really, when you put people
Not with
behind
these
bars.
things. I mean, these are different stories. But
No,
please
but you're a
go
hero.
ahead.
You're
Yeah.
really you're taking
You
down
did
the bad
do
guy.
a lot of good work. You don't give
That's good
yourself
work.
enough credit. You were
take some
a
credit.
main
Listen
reason
to
that
your
Warren
daughter.
Jeffs is behind bars.
Exactly. Yes. When you're putting people behind bars that are bad, you're doing a good thing
Exactly.
for the world.
I'm moving. Well, he's traveled all over the world, and he knows what makes things tick. He's here on the show. It's Mike Watkiss. Some of his stories are quite dark, but they're quite thrilling. I thank the Lord above that he brought his daughter Dylan. All right, that's all I got.
That was awesome.
Well, that was
Thank you.
terrific.
Way
Thank
to
you. Thank
freestyle
you.
on that.
Very honored, and thank you when you do that. And
They
you
made
did-
up a song about us.
That's
so
right.
That's
great.
great.
It's so
Awesome.
cute.
Wow, that's
It's
beautiful.
one of my favorite things.
His
to do.
improvisational
Wow, that's-
skills are
I
amazing.
was gonna
I've
say,
seen
that
him
was
go
pretty
for
awesome.
I've seen him go for 10
Really?
minutes straight.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
Wow,
I
he's so
have
great.
a band. I also teach improv comedy, so that yes and comment
You know that.
earlier before.
You know.
So yeah, we do a lot of improvisational music, and which is
Nice.
just a lovely.
Wow.
That was awesome.
That
Thank
Once
you.
again, And you can find
Very
Martin
moving.
Niner, yes, it's more fun.
Morefun.com.
Dot com. And his band is Junk the Band. If you want to hire his band
right.
for parties, they do private parties. Woo!
That's right. We're going to be in Christopher Creek September 3rd, Labor Day weekend. So that's going to be
exciting.
fun. And then half the band's going to stay up there, so we're going to do some pop-up music here. Up there.
Nice.
Well, it's nice and cool.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful up there too.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Mike,
Love
one
it up
common theme in your book is about how much pressure you constantly faced as a journalist and reporter. What case gave you the most pressure and you're just like feeling beat?
That's hard.
You almost passed out.
Well, there was
Michael.
just
That's a good question.
Well, there was a weird story that is a little twisted, but one weekend, Beverly Hills cops busted some really beautiful young ladies at I think the Beverly Hilton, and they were call girls, and it was a big bust, a sting, and it led to the case of Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss.
Wow.
You remember
yes,
this
I
back
do.
in
Yes.
the day, and
Oh,
maybe
yes.
it wasn't quite the quite the stature of OJ and some of those, but for Hollywood, it rocked.
Oh, it was a big
Does
deal.
Charlie Sheen's name come up with this?
How could it?
Yeah.
How could it not?
There are hookers
Yeah,
involved. Yeah.
and Charlie, I think, showed his true character because he was one of those guys that narked on her. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of regard for Charlie and his tiger blood, but yeah.
Why would he do that?
To save his own ass.
Wow.
Why do people do anything?
That's right.
And I know
Most of them are not
Self-interest.
because they need. Why do most people do bad things? Because they need a lot more of this guy.
That's right. I like him.
Yeah, well, yeah, but so anyhow, there was this police sting, a big raid, and suddenly the exposed underbelly of the highest price call girl ring in the town, and it was run by this young, very enterprising young woman. She had a lot.
How old was she at the time?
Oh God, she was maybe 30. I don't know. She had taken out. There was a Madam Alex, an older woman who had basically been the go-to for celebrities needing hookers for a long time. Heidi had sort of snaked in and taken over the. It's a long history, but Heidi was
How many girls did she have?
enough to satisfy.
Enough to go around
enough
Hollywood.
to go around Hollywood and the very lusty appetites of her clients. And
Were the clients married?
Oh, we see you're asking.
Probably most
But
of them.
what do you think? Let's stop being naive. We're talking about hookers and celebrities. So, whatever. I don't know what they are. But a lot of big. So when in the wake of this, Hollywood was quaking because what rich men are going to go down with her, and Heidi, to her credit, really took the fall. I think Charlie helped cops, and when he's a scumbag. But a lot of guys could have gone down, and it was so. The reason I bring this up, I recall driving into the station, being dispatched. I think they were busted late Saturday night, and so early. I'm headed into the station early the next morning, and we ended up working nonstop, and I never laid down. Doing a story on prostitutes, and I never once laid down. That's how clean I was. Never once slept, never once. And by the Friday afternoon, I sat down, just the weirdest experience. I was now running, exhausted. We'd been, a show like a current affair, we just turned the whole format over. When we had hookers in Hollywood, the whole show was going to Hollywood. So I'm now turning basically the whole show every day with our crew there. They flew people in to help us, but we were working nonstop. Put the whole show together for a week, and on Friday afternoon, I sat down in a small room to do an interview, and it was one of those experiences that tells you what the human mind and makeup will do. Sat down, and they turned on these bright lights, and I was just so exhausted. I just remember seeing this sort of flash of light and an explosion, and had sort of a seizure of just being utterly exhausted.
Sleep
And
deprivation?
like I say, I had not slept since I drove in that Monday morning. early Monday
crazy.
morning, and literally didn't lay down to the Friday afternoon. Sat down to do this one last interview with one last thing about Heidi Fleiss that we were going to have for the weekend show, and I sat down and had this blast. And I thank God I was with this big burly sound man, because it was the room full of all kinds of equipment with big heavy stands, and I was about to do a face plant right into this light stand, and this big guy, this big friend of mine who'd always had my ass, he pulled me back and put me down, and like when I came to, I'm embarrassed. The young woman we're interviewing, I'm sorry, and let's get back to it. And they said, no.
You need a nap.
You seem to have passed out or had a cameraman grab you multiple
going
times.
home.
So I have a question. It might be a stupid question, but did these call girls, these fancier call girls, do they look like hookers, or do they look like?
More.
No, they were. I don't know what a hooker. I don't know what a hooker.
Do they look like?
Yeah,
Ivana
I wouldn't.
Trump, or-
And I'm going to let you make that
Well, I mean,
judgment or determination.
when you're watching a movie
They were-
and they cast
they were
a
not-
hooker, did they look like that?
I'm sure they dressed exactly how the client wanted them to.
Yeah, and I know that was part
Right?
of that was part of the Heidi service.
Yeah,
that was
sure.
available. The pom poms.
That's
and
right.
whatever
They
So-
could look like whatever you want.
Yeah,
as
but
well.
the young women that I knew were all fair. You know what? I would to most of them that were working for Heidi, and we got acquainted with a couple of them. They were very bright young women who were
Really?
look, they were making money, good money with Heidi, and if it was banging a celebrity on the weekend, I mean, it's better than walking the streets when you're being flown to Vail for a weekend with a guy with some fat old man, and you're not being on the streets. Yeah, it's probably a much better gig for being a prostitute. If you're, I hate using the word prostitute because they're not. It demonizes them as human beings. They engaging in prostitution. I've known a lot of women involved in that, from Joe Conforte, the pimp, and that was a mess. And those are bad situations. And they're all. But
still
these
people.
these women clearly had more control over it, and the ones who I met were very smart and very beautiful. I mean, for my mind, and one of them told me a very interesting insight about a celebrity, which I mentioned to you.
Oh, Billy Idol. Tell us.
Well, you just took my punchline.
Swing and a miss.
But the bottom line is this one woman, we were talking about the guys involved, and they said, she said, there was one guy that never had to pay. I said, my God, what man is that? She said.
What's that song? More.
And she said,
Pretty sexy.
Billy Idol. Because she said, all the girls loved Billy.
Yeah. And a lot of guys too.
Yeah, I guess, but I had a certain degree of regard for Billy that I had not had before. I was like thinking,
I'm gonna look up when's his next concert.
Not only a good musician, but
yeah. So anyhow,
Right. And no scandal around him, right?
so that case really drained your batteries like no other. Then.
well, it was just physically, and I didn't know it wasn't that interesting. It was a smutty story about silly people, and no, do I think it was one of the most meaningful stories? But it was just one of those when you were in the tabloid trenches and you were turning stuff. They wanted, they didn't want an excuse. They wanted you to fill your time slot.
Didn't matter if you passed out. The story needed to go on.
Well,
at 6 o'clock.
unless you've been shot, you better make slots.
And that's not even a good excuse.
That's a good line.
And then it depends on where you've been shot.
If it's the leg, you should still get it
Right.
done.
Right. You can do it.
And that's really the adage that that for old timers, it really is. There's not a good excuse not to make slots. But it was just one of those kinds of things. I just wore myself out. I mean, I've been knocked out, shot at, punched, whatever. That
exciting. Wow.
I just wore myself.
So exciting.
Wait, you've been shot at? We can't just casually glass
He
over
completely
that.
forgot that some girls, like ex-boyfriend, pulled a gun on them on a date because he's like, oh, it's just another day. And I was like, the things you've seen in your life to have just forgot about that kind
He's
of
like
story.
casually like, yeah, I've been
Wait,
shot
I'm
at.
confused.
Pull a gun
Who
out.
pulled
He
the
didn't
gun?
use it.
Ex-girlfriend.
Let's not.
Oh, an ex-girlfriend.
It was like the
No,
boyfriend.
no,
The
no,
boyfriend.
no.
They
I
showed
was-
up on a date. He was trying to do her a favor and get the guy away from him.
Yeah, I was.
so
Yeah,
glad you
nobody,
brought
no
her.
girlfriend's ever pulled a gun
No,
on me.
no, no. It wasn't the girl. He was doing the girl a favor,
I saw he
and the
pulled
ex-boyfriend
somebody on
came and was
us
like
and we
aggressive
just-
towards her and pulled the gun, and he was like, "You need to leave."
Okay, so Warren Jeffs,
Yes.
tell us about covering that and investigating.
Cheerful
I've done it
story.
Another
I've done it
cheerful
for 45. I've covered that story for 40 years. So we've covered every aspect of it. He's now imprisoned for life for raping 2 underage girls, one 12 and one 15. I got 100 years plus a sentence in a Texas prison. I'd like to think, and a lot of people who would love to take credit for this, famous authors and private investigators and a bunch of bullshit artists. But I will say we had a hand in making things so hot for Warren Jeffs in Arizona, exposing the cases, the victims. It took forever, and the lethargy and the failure on the part of most Arizona officials, we could fill up 2 cans. But the bottom line is we did have a hand in making things hot as hell for Warren here in Arizona. It drove him to Texas, which was the worst career move he ever made, because those Texas Rangers down there didn't have none of the sort of history with these people.
Right.
And they threw it, and when they raided that ranch and found these audio tapes and hits that he was putting on me and cops and other stuff, there's all kinds.
Well, explain that. He was putting hits on you.
Whatever. He's a dumbass, and in one of his rambling sermons that he had always had transcribed, he was talking about what a murderous, adulterous, and corrupt man I am. And this cop friend of mine named Gary Engels up in Mojave County, one of the few people who's done anything. And then he goes on to tell his followers in this highfalutin sermon that God wants these murderous, adulterous, corrupt men dead. He would absolve any one of you that went. So I'm going to tantamount to an ecclesiastical hit. Do I lose
All
a
will
lot?
be forgiven if they take
Yes.
it, like Watkiss.
And
Wow.
do I?
That's
take it?
huge.
Yeah, is it
Are you
huge?
understanding
Is it
this?
huge? I'll tell you what it is. I've won some rewards. I've won some journalistic stuff and stuff. That means more to me. That son of a bitch putting a hit on me means more to me than any hardware I got on my mantelpiece, because he knows and I know that I helped put him where he's at.
That's
And
you're
so
awesome.
I'm good. And so
And
you
see,
know, and then
See,
I know
that's why you're a hero. That's what
saving
she
the
said.
children, one show at a time.
That's right.
Hello,
need to
one more
take
time.
more credit.
Well, because also
Saving
putting that heat on him, he could have potentially
How many
times
raped
saving the
more
planet.
people if he didn't
Saving
have
the
that
planet.
attention.
Oh, and
One
he
show
did
at a
what
time.
he did, and he was doing it long after we started doing stories, because a bunch of lazy bastards in this state in Utah never took it seriously. But you
They
know,
were
Why
in on
so?
it.
Wait, why? Why didn't they take it seriously?
They're kinda
you're going to
like-
get into a political show with people's religions and politics that may be a little field for your nice feel-good thing. But you want me to come in and name names about the political failures, people in our legislature who went out of their way to protect Warren Jeffs, people
Really?
who have looked the
Oh,
other
yeah.
way.
What?
They're
but
still
it-
in power.
Yeah,
So.
and again,
Yeah.
I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole with you guys.
It would be a controversy. We should
I'm down
probably.
to go down the rabbit hole. Let's go. Buckle in.
Yeah, we should.
I know some Mormon people that,
See, and you would.
but they're very, they were very against Warren Jeffs.
And that's
And-
that's the interesting phenomenon with.
We could do a show with them, another one with you guys, and we could bring this
I'm
all
not
up.
going to get. To be honest with you, you go have your discussion. I don't need to.
Pokes
exchange.
and bears.
My story. I really look like that's more than anything else. That's the story I've retired from. I helped get Warren in prison. We helped.
Yay.
We allowed. But and then the stories that we did really formed the blueprint for federal prosecutors who went in a federal court here about 3 years ago and took over the entire municipal government. Took it, realized it was corrupt, and in many ways that federal case was a blueprint of stories that we had done. So I feel like we were
Good for you.
provocative. We helped blow it up. Now they've got the town is open. They're having more open elections, and
They have a bar there now.
which
is incredible.
If you're LDS, you
That
know,
is incredible.
Yeah, the Edge of the World Brewery, which I find immensely entertaining. But we still have to go up and get a beer.
I
on
know
there.
we do.
What's the town called?
It's called
Colorado
City, and it's
Did you know that?
No.
Okay.
Fun facts. Colorado City. It's on the border of Utah and Arizona, right? Right in the middle.
Colorado City is the Arizona part. A place called Hilldale, Utah is the Utah part. They're twin cities. They've been there for 100 years, and it is sort of the headquarters of Mr. Jeffs and his FLDS church, and has been forever, and will be long after. But much change with Warren in prison, and now with this federal ruling in a court here in Phoenix that took the government away from control of the FLDS church and the control of the police force, which I was fighting with those guys, belly bumping with those tough guys for decades.
Well, half of them were FLDS.
No,
so-
not half.
Well, some of them were.
What's the difference
Not half.
between?
Not half.
Can you
Everyone.
dumb it down for people that are listening that don't know? What is the difference between FLDS and LDS?
It's a fundamentalist Latter-day Saints versus just Latter-day Saints.
I thought of a different F word, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're just
that's a song.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're just more, I guess devoted. You
No,
could add.
yeah. Well, that's
Or more Neanderthal, more extreme.
No,
or-
and I'm not. I don't want to get into that kind of terminology. But the bottom line is, you have the mainstream Mormon Church that people are aware of, headquartered in Salt Lake City. The founder. This is a history lesson.
I just don't know what the difference is.
Well.
It's good to
Read
know
the
because
book.
I don't really know.
Oh, it's in the book.
No, but
okay.
it's
Well,
no,
give
but
us a rundown because I feel like it's important to distinguish because I don't,
Right. None of us
But
know.
the-
We're asking you. And you know.
the Mormon.
Because I'm not going to say his name, but my friend that's kind of a Mormon, Jack Mormon, he said that it's totally different.
It is. It definitely is.
I think the
that's what he
LDS
said
are a
to
little
me.
more loose, right?
they're different. No,
They're not more loose, but you get into this. You know more.
Yeah, and it's just these are all the sort of
This is like,
misconceptions.
tell us the difference between Protestants and Catholics and
And look, this is they all started from the same point. Joseph Smith, the founder of the LDS, the Mormon faith. They went to Utah and they practiced polygamy early on. They went and founded Utah, still practicing polygamy under Brigham Young, and. As the territory of Utah grew, it became clear that the sort of economic future of the area depended on becoming a state, becoming part of they were a territory at the time and practicing polygamy. The United States made it very clear you're not going to enter as a state as long as you're practicing polygamy. Well, that one of their prophets then had some revelation that they were going to stop practicing polygamy. Well, that left an entire population that were polygamous families who said, "What the hell about us?" It caused splits. The mainstream Mormon Church went on to become the Mormon Church that we know in Salt Lake City,
The
and
LDS.
the people who continued to practice polygamy just have been splintering off each other into smaller groups. And one of the largest groups went down to Colorado City, Hilldale, to get away from the spotlight, to get away from the police, to go do their own thing. And they had developed this community that was unique in America because it really was a theocracy, a community that was completely run by a church.
Sounds like a movie.
There's been a bunch of
Oh yeah, there's been an
Has there?
HBO series on
really?
it, all sorts of fun stuff.
There are people that we're working on a major project. There's projects in the works.
There are.
So while the Warren Jeffs case was the one you're basically most proud of working on, helping uncover, it sounds like it's also one of your least favorite to talk about. Which one is like your most favorite and like most exciting you'd like to talk
Oh,
about?
I appreciate that.
Good
Well,
question.
I don't
That's
know.
a very
Good one.
good question.
I don't know. There are, and I
Cheers.
like talking about the Jeffs thing. It's just the history. I don't want to be the arbiter of the history of the Mormon Church.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what, I'm not.
Of course not. We just
I
wanted
grew
to
up
know-
there,
we wanted you to distinguish
people,
between those two.
You're going to get. I know people are going to hear that and they're going to be pissed off at me and you and for
I don't
us,
think so.
us
Basically, you just
diagnosing
said-
the church.
That wasn't
But-
diagnosing. You
No,
were
no,
just
no.
distinguishing
I
between two
highly
groups.
doubt any FLDS are listening to this show.
I was
'cause
gonna
they're
say,
drinking
those
wine.
guys already
We're
have
drinking
Hi.
wine.
No,
We're
I'm
having
not.
a grand old
Okay, what I
time.
got out of what you said is the FLDS is like basically the corrupt part of the Mormons. The
No, and
the
they're just
LDS
like
is
polygamists.
fundamental.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're not. I
They're
guess
polygamists.
They're
Well,
polygamists. They
that's
just
correct.
believed in
And
that
there was a
lifestyle.
subset of them.
And this is I will make this point because
I think
people,
polygamy is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. But I will tell you, my reporting. This is, and I want. This is important to me. I'm the kind of guy that lives and let lives. This is my reporting has never been about some moralistic judgment about men and women and the relationships they've had. And I know that people have tried to make it, they confuse that. I have laser focused on the marriage and abuse of children.
Exactly.
If you're
And
consenting adults
wanna-
doing polygamy, be my guest.
Yeah, who
If
cares?
when a
Exactly.
number of women want to go marry one of those clowns.
Have fun.
Not
I'm glad you're
They
saying
got
this, 'cause
TV,
that's
they got
exactly.
TV, but I
Major.
have and listen, again,
If
I
somebody's
am
under
not
18,
a moral
is that okay?
arbiter on anybody's life. I've lived my own life richly and doing what I want. Grown adults can do whatever the hell they want. My reporting about polygamy, I don't give a
was the
rat's
children.
ass
Unless you're
what
under 18.
adults do.
Yeah. It
I
was
love
the
that
little
you're-
girls that
preying
were
on
getting married
children.
off.
driving your adolescent sons out of the community because the math doesn't work out when you're parceling the young girls off to the faithful sycophants of the,
I mean, you're marrying 12-year-old girls off to their 45-year-old uncles who have 12 wives and 50 kids. That's the issue,
That's the issue.
But if you want to do polygamy as adults,
We don't care.
it.
Knock yourself out.
Knock yourself out.
But don't hurt the children.
And maybe you'll get yourself a reality show.
Right.
And whatever.
Hey, they have one of those on TLC. It's called Seeking Sister Wife.
And
Oh my God.
It makes my jaw drop watching that thing when it's on.
It is.
Well, thank you for all the good work you do, because it's a huge deal that you have taken this guy down and helped be part of it. You've been part of it.
Well,
It's the women that we should highlight.
You're hitting a lot of my hot buttons, because I would take credit for this. There were a handful of women who got out of that thing and raised hell. The men, every man that I can cite who has had a significant hand in this history is a reporter or a politician and we're just doing our jobs. The people who put their necks out were a handful of brave women who got out, were abused badly, and then started raising hell with me as sort of their scribe, saying, we know what happened to us, and we're not going to allow that to happen to our little brothers.
He gave them the platform, but they
and those are the heroes.
Yeah.
Because they
You're a hero too.
They risked their lives. They lost their families. They were kicked out.
Yep.
I went up and did some stories, So
But you're risking your life doing that too.
I like risking my life. I'm one of those nut jobs like to run into stuff when bad stuff's happening. So I I hate getting praised for that kind of stuff, because I'd do it if it wasn't getting paid for it.
So have you ever had to get in a fight? Or punch
That
somebody
was
down?
rhetorical, wasn't
For
it?
the polygamy or just in general?
In general.
That's just in general.
We got
She's
the job.
perfect with you. You can't come on without her.
We got the job here in Phoenix.
Oh yeah, he got a job because he took a punch. So
we're here. We live in Phoenix
because of this.
Oh, that's right.
I was working for
Remember?
Hard Copy, taking a freelance job because I was down and out and unemployed in L.A. My son was just.
He's one.
He's one. My
He
son's
just got fired, and he had a 1-year-old. So
God,
frantic
Great
time.
timing.
And so I go out and I do a freelance gig for Hard Copy, and it was basically just ambushing a guy with a camera. I was real good at those.
It was this guy who sold like an elixir that promised to cure everything. So he went to,
And so I got him, and he threw a couple of punches at me. And Hard Copy was just going to take the interview with this guy and put it and let somebody else track it. But because I got punched on camera, this guy came. Suddenly they made these big ads. Our producer, Mike Watkiss, confronts this guy.
You became the story.
I became, because there's a TV. Somebody throws a punch at you, you want to kiss them because they just made your story for you. So this big old heavy guy throws a couple of punches at me, and the station makes a big deal out of it. Literally, the morning after that ran on national television on Hard Copy, I get a phone call. I'm sitting down in Paramount Studios, and some guy calls me up. Hey, this is Dennis O'Neill from Channel 3 in Phoenix, Arizona. We saw you get punched last night. That was great. Come work for us.
I like the way you get punched.
You think I lie? The reason my family and I are here.
The reason I was born and raised in Arizona is because you got sucker punched. So thank you.
Yeah. So we had some fisticuffs. There have been some stuff. My life took a radical detour because this guy threw a punch at me.
Who would have thought a fight would change your life?
So, just everything, good things come out of bad things. Right?
That is true.
It's true, right?
It was a good thing that we moved here.
It's been a good run. We're having fun with our friends.
We are.
Oh,
So what would you say is your favorite story, Dylan, that your dad has covered? Or what do you think
Or
is
one
most
of his
exciting?
one of your favorite embarrassing
My
moments.
embarrassing moments.
You
Gotta be mindful. He's got to get me right home.
She can too. I mean, that's true.
My
Well,
favorite
Liz.
moments? I honestly thought the Jodi Arias trial just as a whole was really interesting because it was one of the first big cases that I really remembered him covering. And I remembered it because my mom actually got called for jury duty, and they were like, you need to come down and do all this. And she went up to the judge, and she was like, listen, I'm not going to be able to separate my life from the news. My husband's going to be covering this. But I thought it was really interesting because I remember my mom going down there, and then I remember you being there every single day, just long hours at the court, and just watching that whole trial unfold. So that was probably my most memorable moment. Or the Jim Cox, because I remember that day like it was yesterday.
Helicopter crash.
The helicopter crash.
Yeah,
I was
very
just
impactful for
yeah.
I think all of
What was I? I was like 7, and I didn't know what was going on. And my friend's mom was just like, "I'm gonna come pick up Dylan. Like, you guys need to figure this out." And I just remember getting picked up, and I was like, "Play date, cool, you know."
It's
But like, what's going on here? Something's wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting to sort of deal with this and see the impact it has on your children. You know, when you
Oh yeah.
because they knew when there was stress, and I never felt that endangered, but people we were around and there were dangerous situations.
Well, it was just like, "What'd you do today at work, Dad?" And I was like, "Oh, I covered a triple homicide in the West Valley, you know." And I was like, "Oh, cool, that happens on a day-to-day basis, you know." Like,
we didn't do that when you were little.
no,
No,
but growing up,
there
you know,
was
like my
some
brother. That story Mom says is pretty telling of like what it's kind of like. My brother was really little, and there was a news story on, and some man had just murdered his wife, and my brother went up when he was like 3 years old, and he was like, "Mom, like, why do men murder their wives?" And he just it was kind of like a question, like, does this happen on a day-to-day basis, like? And so my mom's like, "We have to stop watching the news." So at that point, my mom never really turned my dad on the TV at night. So until we were older and
Phrasing.
Great mom.
Yeah, exactly. We'd ask him at night what he did, and he could tell us, but we didn't really watch him on TV because, I mean, being young and learning all this stuff, it's kind of hard to hear.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
Well, that's a great. That your mom. That was smart.
Yeah.
Because I think
Smart.
it can scare you, and
Thanks for
violence is not good.
sheltering us from that kind of stuff.
I still think I'm a bad dad.
No.
I mean, much of this I wrote for my kids because it was like a mea culpa. It's like, your dad's sort of crazy, and he's been overprotective, and so I
Here's why you're kind of crazy, too.
No, well, this is, I felt like I wanted to apologize to my kids for being such a whack job.
No,
Well, I
no
feel like
apology
I was
necessary.
protective of you and Rachel. Don't you think I was? Like, you guys barely spent
Well,
the night
yeah,
out.
but
You only
his
spent the night at our
situation is
house.
special because he was covering homicides and all that
Yes, yeah.
stuff.
There's
So
a difference between a helicopter parent and then someone who's actually been in a helicopter.
I mean, I'm just saying that, like, I didn't really let the kids watch a lot of violence
Yeah.
either, or do the violent games, or
Yeah.
any of that stuff until they were like
And
15.
as much as they
So.
tried to shield it, it was kind of like, well, where's Dad going today? And it's like, well, he's going to cover the story. And it's like, well, what's the story? It's like they could cover it and shield us from it from so much, but I think it definitely made us kind of hyper aware, and now we're like, all in the news and engulfed with it. But yeah, it was definitely like, oh, Dad's going to cover this story. Well, what's the story? Oh, it's a murder again.
Mass
It's like,
shooting
oh,
in
fun.
San Bernardino.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh, I remember that. Yep.
Hurricane Katrina, 9/11.
9/11. It's like, where's
Oh,
Dad?
9/11.
He
You
jetted
covered that.
off on the first flight that they let out of Arizona.
Wow. Chet,
With
you have a
Jim
story with
Cox.
9/11?
well,
Oh,
we
yeah,
were just on the
tell.
buildings the day before they came down, but yeah.
Wow.
So and then we had to drive back across the country because all the
Wow.
airports were
Because
shut
the
down.
airports
Yeah.
were shut
And we have
down.
a video, which I need to go through all the videos. We have a video, like maybe a 20-minute video of our family. Your dad did a lot of videoing then. Of us going up on the elevator, all the people that were on the elevator up at the top.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
So the day before it
The
happened.
day
Yeah,
before.
on the
Yeah,
10th.
that's
Yeah.
Oh
before.
my
Eerie.
God! Just
Yes.
family vacation. You guys were visiting.
We were going to go buy a puppy, so we drove back across the country with a puppy that was pooping in the car the whole time. But it made it a little more cheerful because it was such a
memorable trip. You will
Wow.
Yeah, well, I
you
was
will
like
never
5, so I
forget-
can
you will
barely-
never
Yeah.
forget that trip.
But same thing like your mom. Once it all happened, I said, "That's it. We're having fun.
Yeah.
We're gonna focus on the puppy. No more. We're not watching any more TV." And I didn't even let them watch anything. And I just was like, "This is fun."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I got
Shield
lucky
them
because
from
I
it.
Yeah, I did.
My memories about that drive back are more about having fun with the dog than being
Yes.
scared about
He wasn't
were we
scared.
going to go to war, were we going to have more terrorist
Yeah.
attacks, all that.
I
So.
made it really fun, and Dad made it fun. We made it fun. Yeah.
I was 1 when 9/11 happened, so I don't have a ton of recollection of that.
But I remember
That's
that they
okay.
missed
Yeah,
like 3 weeks
right?
of school because we
Oh, I
drove
bet.
back slowly because it was like hard to stay at places with the puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the hotels were really sweet to us.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, so
Before.
one question I wanted to ask Mike was, are you like in fear at all for like journalism? Like, is it being too commercialized? Is there too much money involved, or do you think it's going to stay alive? Because there's a lot of people that are like,
Good question. I think
Is
it's
that another
evolving.
show?
it really
That's a
could be,
great
but
question.
It could be.
It's a great
That's
question.
an
That's a great
analysis of
question.
Sort of where our society is going.
Yeah.
Everybody, people still like stories. We embarked on this whole thing because people are coming to me wanting to do their real crime stories or their podcasts, and so she and I decided.
So we were just like, why don't we
sit
do
in our
it?
backyard and we do it? People want stories, they want journalism, they want the truth, but the truth has been weaponized, and it was. I'm glad I'm not because I'm very proud of being a journalist. I like being out in the streets covering it, and now there's a great.
You're a hero.
Well, you
Well,
care about the truth more than money, though, it seems like.
Yeah, hey, dude, I had to make a buck.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I still had to feed my family. So everybody's gonna, and people who tell you they're pristine without, you got to make a living.
Yeah.
But I could have made more money being an anchor. I like being in the field. Made a lot more money. So I made some sacrifices. But where the future of the media.
I don't think it's dying. I think it's evolving.
Oh, it's definitely not dying. People are more
was gonna
desperate.
say.
People are more desperate for information today, and this is why we're seeking sources that are full of so much bullshit.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I meant. There's just so much more bullshit out there.
There's so much
the internet,
content.
I mean,
Everyone
the
can be a
internet has
journalist at
changed
this
the
moment,
world.
but it's like, who's the real one
We were
with
talking-
the real facts? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
we were talking about the Jodi Arias case and how there were some real reporters in it, and then it became sort of a blogos. I mean, it became a Twittersphere.
Yeah.
With just lunatics who were sitting in the court, shitting out bullshit that was with the real reporters, and the public doesn't know. And and again, it's not like the legitimate journalists are always right, but we have lost our way in deciphering the truth.
Well, yeah, I just feel like some people
and
might.
I can't, and that's a bit political issue.
Some people are just caring more about the story that's like, oh, Kim Kardashian's new ass implant or something, versus like a real.
Tabloids.
Yeah, exactly.
And all I can say is the Kardashians are in the book, but it's her dad, and it's about OJ.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I don't talk to the new generation. I could.
So,
give
Mike,
a-
I have to ask you, what year did you start working at 3TV after that punch?
That was 96, right? 97.
when was your brother born?
Cole was
Is
born
that-
in 95.
Yeah, and I started, my son's first birthday was my
So it's-
first week at Channel 3, and we were living with my sister-in-law in Mesa.
So 96.
Okay.
So 96, and then I retired 22 years ago this week.
2018 when I graduated.
This week.
Yeah.
Wow.
3 years ago we
Crazy run.
Well, because I wasn't sure if you had covered Pep Cooney, his son Sean that I was dating. We had a little mini party. I didn't tell my kids about this till I was like married because I didn't want to scare them. But we had a little party at Pep's house, and one of our friends went down to the Circle K or whatever, and ended up coming back with some psychopath, and they did a little race right in front of Pep's house.
What was his name?
And-
Mike will probably remember the murder as soon as you say his name.
See, I wipe that stuff out of my head, but we can look it up. We can look it up and find
And
out.
what, was there a killing?
Yeah, there was.
Yes.
At the
Yes.
party?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
so my sister shows up and she's like, "Oh my gosh, there's two people fighting. There's two people fighting. They're like right there at the end of the cul-de-sac." And so apparently they raced their motorcycles. The psycho was on some kind of drugs like meth or I don't know what he was on. And our friend Zach McAllister,
Oh, you remember his
dear
name?
friend Zach McAllister, was our friend, and our friend was murdered.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, wow.
when the fight happened, the murderer stabbed him like I don't know, like 25 times or something crazy like that. And it was this huge story.
Just
it was
right
all over the
outside the
news
house?
because
I
Pep
remember that.
Pep owned the station.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
remember it because
Keeping it-
he's famous. It wouldn't have got a headline, but because of your famous friend, I think.
Wow.
Right.
Right outside the house.
And then Sean's
Well, they
best
bashed
friend.
his head in with a rock, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
and took a rock and smashed his head. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
So anyway, and then his
Happy stuff.
another best friend.
A light ending.
His sister. Well, these are we're talking about crimes.
Yeah.
His sister. Another one of his best friends. His sister was riding her bicycle by herself, and some serial killer got her, did all this bad stuff to her, and decapitated her.
Yes,
and
I know this story. I know
Okay, so you know that story?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah. Her name was Jill Burness.
Yeah.
And Mike Burness, yeah. So those are the only two crimes in my life that I know about.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And it's
that's
not funny,
crazy.
but you know about that.
Yes, I know. I've covered that. I did. Yeah, and there was another young woman killed, and there was a guy recently, sort of nut job, in the Comic-Con world or some such thing. He drove around in some sort of, and what was that out in front of his house as they were pulling it apart after they had arrested him. And yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know the story, and that's still sort of. I don't think they have resolved that yet, but. He killed two young women, allegedly killed two young women, including the woman along the canal and that grizzly.
Wow.
Terrible.
Horrible
Anyway.
story, yeah.
So back to you. What's on your bucket list? Mike Watkiss and Dylan.
Oh yeah.
My bucket list.
What's on your bucket list, the two of you?
I have not made a bucket list. I'm not gonna lie.
Or what are your goals? What are your
Damn
dreams?
young to be.
Goals
My
and dreams.
goals and dreams.
Goals and dreams. Yes.
Graduate college. It seems like it's kind of far away during this pandemic, but hopefully I can get through this year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list at this point.
That's fair.
Gonna say
That's
that.
very fair. That's
Get a
that's
job,
a big one.
hopefully. You
Yeah.
know, in this.
And what do you see yourself doing?
That's a good question. I actually wanted to be a journalist because of you.
That's awesome. That's
I did.
awesome.
I was like, I don't want a 9 to 5 every day that's the same. I was like, this is so cool. He sees a new story every day. This is so interesting. And so I've actually started getting into journalism a bit, taking some classes and some internships with journalism. And I love it. I love writing. I love doing this stuff. And having you as a dad is a pretty good, role model, I guess.
Aw.
But
That's awesome.
I don't know, maybe PR. We'll see.
I
Whatever
love it.
job I can get at this point, honestly.
Or the devil PR.
PR, yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe your podcast is going to take off. So
Maybe.
be so
That's
famous
a
that
shot in the
You
dark.
two are
but-
definitely
You gotta
entertaining.
try.
Well,
Yeah.
look at Joe Rogan.
Thank you. For
Right?
your,
Look at Joe Rogan.
And look what he spews.
That's
So
right.
I
He
feel
got
like we
punched,
could
too.
do. Did he? I don't really watch his show.
He's an MMA guy, so
Oh,
he gets punched
okay.
all the
I was
time.
gonna say I don't really watch
Yeah.
his stuff. But.
Well, it's been a really fun show. We've actually covered an hour.
has, even though
It
this is
flew
probably
by.
one of the
Mike
the
Watkiss,
darker
you're
shows.
exciting.
It's
thank
still.
you for
Thank you.
reaching
Yes,
out.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Persisting.
This has been a
Yeah,
blast.
it's really been fun.
All right, everybody,
Well,
go watch
we'd love-
Story Hustler
yes.
on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
really
Drop it.
entertaining.
Truest of true crime.
And I appreciate all your efforts and your efforts. And
Well, we
your
appreciate you
course,
guys.
it's been a
It's
lot of
been very
fun.
exciting.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you guys on again, like when something juicy comes
Absolutely.
on.
Oh,
And
yes.
I have a small bit of advice for you, Mike.
Oh, there we
Based
go.
on this small interaction that we've had with you and your daughter, I think you should cut yourself a lot more slack.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, you're hard on yourself. You're hard on yourself.
You are.
Thanks, Doc.
Saving the planet.
One
One
show
show
at
at
a
a time.
time.
I love that. I love
You
that.
guys, thank you.